This is Masechet Brachot and the beginning of the sixth Perek, Ketzad Mevorchin. The Perek begins with a Mishnah. Ketzad Mevorchin al Perot. How do we make brachot on fruits? Al Perot ha'ilan hu omer borei priya, fruits from the tree, borei priya eitz. Chutz min hayayin, shal hayayin hu omer borei priya gafen. The exception is grapes, because on wine we have an elevated bracha, a specific bracha of borei priya gafen for wine. V'al perot haaretz hu omer borei priya adama, and for fruits of the ground, the bracha is borei priya adama. Chutz min apat, shal apat hu omer hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Because on bread from grains, the bracha here is also elevated to a specific bracha for bread of hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Al yirakot hu omer borei priya adama, on green vegetable greens, the bracha is borei priya adama, just like perot haaretz, just like the fruit of the ground of vegetables, it's borei priya adama. So too on the greens that are eaten from the ground, borei priya adama. Rabbi Yehuda omer borei minei deshayim. Rabbi Yehuda says that there's a bracha on specific for herbage or for greens that grow from the ground of borei minei deshayim. But of course we follow Chachamim who include them both in the bracha of borei priya adama. The Gemara begins its treatment of this Mishnah in this Perek with the question, Minahani Mili, what is the source for this notion of making brachot before we eat? And the Gemara suggests a number of different possibilities and ultimately settles at the bottom of the Amud, Ella, rather, the previous suggestions were not correct. Svarahu, there is no textual source, but it's a logical source. It's inherently prohibited and irrational to be allowed to benefit from the world of God without first making a bracha to acknowledge that everything in this world comes ultimately from God. This source is a svara because God communicates to us not only through the written Torah and the oral Torah, but through the intellect which He created. And it's that intellect which compels the halachic obligation of bracha. The Gemara continues, Tana Rabbanan, Asur lo la'adam she'yehena min ha'olam hazeh b'lo bracha. It's prohibited to benefit from the world without a bracha. V'chol haneneh min ha'olam hazeh b'lo bracha ma'al. And anyone who does benefit from the world without a bracha is tantamount to me'ila. Me'ila is a prohibition to benefit from that which belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, belongs to God. It's like stealing from God. To benefit without a bracha is like me'ila. Lower on the daf, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, Kol nenem min ha'olam hazeh b'lo bracha, kilu nenem mikotchei shemayim. Similarly, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel that someone who benefits from the world without a bracha, it's as if he benefited from the hekdesh of God. Shenamar, and the pasuk that proves this idea is La Hashem ha'aretz umuloha. The whole world belongs to God. Thus, everything is His, and without a bracha, it is like stealing. Rabbi Levi Ramiktiv. Rabbi Levi raised a contradiction from this pasuk. It says La Hashem ha'aretz umuloha, that the whole world belongs to God. And it also says Hashemayim shamayim la Hashem, that the heavens belongs to God. Ve'ha'aretz natan livnei adam, and the land was given to man. So this pasuk indicates that God maintains His ownership over the heavens, but has given the earth to mankind. So why does it say previously that the whole world belongs to God? Lo kasha, there's no contradiction. Rabbi Levi explains. Kan kodem habracha. One is before the bracha. Before the bracha, everything is considered God's. Kan, God allows everything to be considered to be man's. In other words, God gives us the world on condition that we first make a bracha before we use it. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Ramiktiv. Rabbi Chanina raised a different contradiction. Ktiv lakachti digani b'ito. It says that I will harvest my grain in its time. Uchtiv, and it also says v'asavta diganecha, that you should harvest your grain. So who does it? Me or you? Lo kashya, there's no contradiction. Kan bizman she'Yisrael osin mitzvah shel makom. One is during the time that the Jews are following the will of God and doing His mitzvot. Kan bizman she'ein Yisrael osin mitzvah shel makom. If, however, we don't follow the mitzvot, then we have to do all the work ourselves. If like Rashi explains, God will make man feel that the world does not belong to us when we don't follow His will. But when we do follow the mitzvah of Hashem, then we will feel an ownership over the world. Hadagan shalahem. The Gemara continues, Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Ramiktiv, v'lakachti digani bi'ito, excuse me. Tana Rabbanim v'yasafta diganecha ma Talmud lomar. Why does it have to say even that we harvest our grain? L'fishanamar lo yamush sefer HaTorah azem mipicha, because we know a different pasuk which says that the Torah should never leave our lips. Yachal devarim kichsavan. We might have thought to interpret this pasuk literally, that we should never stop learning Torah, constantly, always learning Torah. Therefore, the Torah has to tell us that you will harvest your grain. You should do the normal way of the world and work the land and harvest its produce. That is the perspective of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai has a different perspective. Efshar Adam choresh b'shas charisha, v'zareya b'shas zriya, v'kotzer b'shas ksira, v'dash b'shas disha, v'zore b'shas haruach. It's possible. Is it possible a person should do all the work of the field, plowing and harvesting and planting, etc. Torah mate Allah. When will there ever be time left for learning Torah? Ella bizman she'Yisrael osim mitzvah shel makom. But the answer is that if the Jewish people do the will of God, melachta na'aseh al yedei acherim, then they will be worthy of the blessing of God, and their work will be done by others, and they will be fully supported and will have time available to learn Torah. Shenamar v'yamdu zarim v'ra'u tzonechem. The pasuk says that strangers will come and do the work on the field. Ubizman she'ein Yisrael osim mitzvah shel makom. But if we do not fulfill the will of God, then we will do the work ourselves. So just the opposite of the previous midrash, here we see that the ultimate goal is that others should do our work. And it's only if we don't follow the mitzvah of Hashem that we will have to work on the fields all ourselves. Not only that, not only that, but if we don't follow the mitzvot, we will be working for others. We will be laborers for others. You will serve your enemies. So here we have two perspectives. Rabbi Yishmael says that the Torah attempts to create a balance where we should follow a minhag derech eretz and work as well as learn Torah, and not literally learn Torah constantly. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai sees the ultimate goal the ideal would be that we are engaged in spirituality all the time, and that if we are worthy, we will have wealth and have others who can do the labor in our fields for us. Amar Abaye sums it up. Harbe asuk Rabbi Yishmael va'alta biyadan. Abaye says many people followed the view of Rabbi Yishmael and had success. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, others followed the ideology of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, v'lo alta biyadan, and they were not successful. Amalei Rava said to the Rabbanan, B'matuta minaychu, I beg of you, B'yomei Nisan of Yomei Tishrei, in the months of Nisan and Tishrei, when there's a lot of work to do in the fields, Lo titchazu kamoi, I don't want to see you in the Beis HaMedrash. Ki heichi lo titchadu b'bezonaichi kulo shata. So you won't be busy working hard on your to make money all year. If you don't work at the time of the season, then you will be too busy working all year. Please make sure to do what you need to do to have a successful year. Amar Rabbi Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Eloi. Come and see how it's not like it was in the good old days. Dorot HaRishonim, in the earlier generations, Asu Toratan Keva Malachtan Arai. They made the Torah their main focus, and their work was viewed as secondary. They knew their primary values, and they knew their secondary values. Zuvazu Nitkaima Biyadan. They were successful in both respects. Dor HaAchronim, the later generations, now in the modern times, Sha'asu Malachtan Keva Toratan Arai. They've made their work into their main focus, and their Torah, something you do here and there when you have time. Zuvazu Lo Nitkaima Biyadan. They were not successful at either pursuit. Their work didn't give them meaning, and neither did their Torah. V'amar Rabbi Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Yehuda ben Eloi. Look at how, in another way, the new generation is not as pious as the previous. The earlier generations would harvest their produce and bring it into their storehouses in the normal way through the door, in order to be obligated to give the maaser, the tithes, the taxes, because they wanted to fulfill that mitzvah. Dor HaAchronim, but nowadays, what do? Machnisim perotein derech gago, derech chatzeo, derech kafefot. They bring their produce into the storehouses through all of these evasions, through windows and back doors, because they would try to find loopholes to not have to give the maaser tithes to the Levi and the Truma to the Kohen. To Amar Rabbi Yanai, because they were based on Rabbi Yanai's teaching, who said, that the grain is not obligated in the mitzvah of maaser unless it comes through the normal entrance of the storehouse. That it has to come through the normal door. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees and thinks that even in your courtyards it becomes obligated in maaser. But following the view of Rabbi Yanai, these modern farmers would try to evade the mitzvah of maaser, and it didn't do the ideal of trying to fulfill the mitzvah like they were intended to be done.